Check, check. Looks like we're preparing to go live on YouTube. Let me get this link. And as soon as this link is here, I'm going to hit the record button. I'm going to share this on Facebook. So save that there. Save that there. Okay, let's see. So YouTube is ready to rock. So let's post that there. Let's post that there. And let's post that there. Boom. And we're recording and we're taking off here. So we're recording on YouTube today. Facebook was down again. It wasn't really working. That's okay. But today is Wicked Wednesday, and I call it Wicked Wednesday because I got a swirl of emotions. And some of those emotions are, there's a lot of action we need to take. But with State of the Spark, we're also about igniting lives of explosive significance. It isn't always about action per se. Sometimes it's about balance. Sometimes it's about clarity. But I want to touch on taking action, when to know to take action, and how this correlates to when I was kidnapped in India, true story, and what that has to do with Simon Sinek. So if that's okay today, we're going to talk about that. And I had a friend hit another friend in the last few weeks. So we're going to connect friends hitting friends very quickly, my kidnapping in India, Simon Sinek. But before all that, we're going to cover Wicked Wednesday and in other news. So real quick, what's going on today, folks? On Monday, I encourage you to do a few things. So this is just an accountability check-in. Did you schedule your date with a loved one? I mentioned that on Monday. This week alone, you need a different paradigm to get through. This paradigm needs to shift, and we need to shift into gear as if this were reality for a long time. In fact, I think the governor of California just announced that this could go on much longer. He's getting ready for opening up the economy. However, that could be like a year or more. So are you mentally shifted with your small business, your family, your fitness and health, and your purpose? Have you shifted gears to think, if this is my life, how am I going to now express my massive potential, express all that I'm capable of right here, right now in this situation? So did you schedule a date with a loved one? That was my homework to you. It's the week's not over, but you need to do it. Marissa and I did go pick up groceries, and we've got a little bit of a tortellini date ready with wine and all. So we're going to put that together. I think we even have candles. We're going to do the whole shebang. Have you created a new fitness routine? I admittedly have not, but I'm fighting. I'm fighting to get back to my fitness and nutrition routine. I went for a run on Monday. Tuesdays are a wash because my buddy comes over at 6 a.m. and we actually touch base on a lot of things. And that's more valuable to me. But the rest of the week, I'm supposed to be working out, but I didn't this morning. I got to bed late last night. But along with that, I have reignited my fasting routine. And if you haven't talked about fasting before, I'd love to do a call on fasting. We could talk about that. And have you returned to your prayer or meditation practice? I think that's equally important these days, that you have a prayer or meditation practice. So those are my accountability check-ins. Are you doing those things? Are you actually returning to, the total life experience in the State of the Spark Freedom Framework? Fitness and health, healthy, happy relationships, work we enjoy, are inspired by, and spirituality. So that's my check-in. Another quick point in the news is that some folks seem like they've actually begun receiving stimulus checks, which I'm super happy for them. That's really great. But I think a lot of these people are expressing a level of disappointment, a dawning awareness. And what that awareness is, the stimulus check is something, it's not nothing, it's important. And that's our tax dollars at work. And for the short term, that's our representatives, I would like to believe, supporting us in a world of the pandemic. But I think what people are having is the dawning awareness that this pales in comparison to the ability to earn our own way. So these $1,200 checks or $2,400 for families, thank you for all the people that put that together, seriously. However, it's not going to get us by. We cannot suddenly wake up on universal income. But in other news, this isn't other news, this is an ego news. Did you know there could possibly be a part of the news that's ego news? Well, you can guess where I'm going with this. In ego news, another first ever. President Donald Trump has required that his name be put on stimulus checks, a first for any president or person from the executive branch, which is supposed to have checks and balances, not stimulus checks and balances. They're not supposed to be on stimulus checks. It was never meant to be. Many people may not care that when they receive a check and take it to the bank that it says President Donald Trump. But to those inclined to moral principle, it will be a little bit more difficult to deposit what would be a helping hand from our very own taxes and representatives, but it has now become a handout from a billionaire. So I really recommend that you take every action. This episode is about taking action. We'll deal with that later. You know, signers of any rebate checks from the IRS are supposed to be from civil servants that legally come from civil servants so that it's apolitical. I would say that this is far less political act on Donald Trump's part as opposed to an egomaniacal act. But we need to actually take pause and decide what our moral stance is going to be on that. I have a suspicion most people won't care. That's perfectly fine. I know it's going to be hard to swallow. Now, really quick, in what I'm reading, Together is Better by Simon Sinek, a phenomenal book. And it's leading us up into a simple idea for this morning's show. And that is simply this. And I'll read 4 sentences very quickly. Simon Sinek writes, "Your idea is so fantastic. Stop talking about it and do it." Here's the quote. "Genius is in the idea. Impact comes from action." You know, I get a lot of young people, I'm surrounded by a lot of young people, State of the Spark, that love their ideas. And I was challenged by a mentor young, and I love my ideas today. I'm enamored with ideation. And I do believe it makes us genius. And I do believe it's a unique genius for all of us to have great ideas, not just ideas, but great ideas. But I had a mentor once, I was sitting around ideating, and he just looked at me and he said, "Grant, ideas are a dime a dozen. What are you able to take action on?" So I read this quote in my quiet time this morning. Great book by Simon Sinek. If you haven't read it, it's fantastic. It's got scratch and stiff. It's got illustrations of what it's like to work with teams and quotes along the way. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Together is Better by Simon Sinek. But genius is in the idea. Impact is in the action. And with State of the Spark, we're all about igniting lives of explosive significance. That's what we crave to do. And so in igniting lives, it's one thing to come up with a great idea like the total life experience. That's one freedom framework, or the small business freedom framework, a synthesized freedom framework pulling from a lot of different disciplines into what we think is the best framework of a small business, MSPBA. There's a lot of freedom frameworks out there. These ideas are great, but what can we act on? We'll get to that in a second. We're going to take a quick break from this for other news that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with coronavirus or hopefully politics. We'll try to do that here in other news. So in other news, I was glad to see on the art side that the Museum of Modern Art now has free classes online. A lot of us are launching free classes online right now. But for those who have a more refined palette for arts and entertainment, as opposed to Desperate Housewives, I just saw that Netflix has a new show called like In the Heat or something like this, and they invite these 10 or a dozen mega hot people, like super Instagram hot people. They bring them to this island, and as you can imagine, like debauchery ensues. False. The trick is they cannot engage in any intimacy whatsoever other than communicating. So that might be interesting, but for those who have a more refined palette, then that sort of art, the Museum of Modern Art now has free classes online. Please take one. Support the arts, man. Support the arts. They need it. Another piece of other news, scientists recently observed the biggest supernova on record. This thing is insanely large. In no history of man have we seen or observed, even an ancient record that we know of, any supernova nearly as large, and we're learning a lot from that. And the last piece of other news, the siphonophore, I hope I'm saying that right. The siphonophore could be the world's longest creature. It's a sea creature. You might have seen some of these photos where the sea creature kind of spirals around. And it's an odd creature. It's one of the longest creatures around, and it functions with clones. A lot of the part of the creature that makes it so long is its clones of itself, bringing function, if you will, to the creature. It's a very mysterious creature, and some are speculating that that is coming out, and we're discovering more about these sea creatures because of global warming and climate change. So the siphonophore is the world's longest creature, and that is my 3 pieces of completely unrelated other news. Thank the Lord that there's something else going on out there, but not much else. This thing is really affecting lots of people at lots of levels, which is why I want to talk about action today. It's Wicked Wednesday. And Wicked Wednesday, I named it Wicked Wednesday for a variety of reasons. Number one, I had a friend recently confess to me, and I won't give this person away, that they punched another friend. And I asked about this because as a young man, I never knew in high school when the right time was to get into a fight. You know, there's a lot of pressure in high school, as a man anyway, growing up in the 80s and 90s. There's a lot of pressure in school, like to get a public school, mind you, with fighting. And it was a show of your ability, your skill, your mastery. It was another ritual, if you will. It was everything from slap bracelets to, are you a surfer or a skater? Are you cool? And for some reason, fighting was still a vestige of that. And did you stand up for yourself, or were you a pushover? I never knew when to fight. And, my dad's stories of him being young and in school and fighting to get by. The only time I ever knew when to throw a punch was when to defend myself or defend somebody else. And that was only when someone was actually physically attacking them. So Grant, what does this have to do with taking action? It's hard to know when to act. Second quick story on this. I was kidnapped in India once. So for those of you who've been around me for a minute know that I traveled with Semester at Sea. And it was a fantastic trip, Semester at Sea. I loved it. And the trip on Semester at Sea was such that I was actually kidnapped for a day. And in the kidnapping, how the kidnapping went was this. I got into a taxi, and in the front of the taxi were 3 men. I was traveling with a female. And it felt weird, but I didn't want to be the ugly American. I didn't want to be that guy who was always jumpy. I wanted to feel natural in any situation, so I ignored my instinct. And they drove us to a store. We went shopping at a store. And I said, I don't want to go to this store. I want to go to another store. And they were a little pushy. No, go to this store. And I was like, okay. And then we said, well, we want to go to this museum. And so they led us to the museum. And they said, hey, we've got to go. We want to take you to another location. I said, well, we didn't really want to go. But they said, no. It's a real cultural thing. You should really check this out. It was all broken English. It was a difficult discussion to get through. But nevertheless, we went along. We didn't want to be the ugly American. So they drove us outside of town. And now we were gone for half an hour. And it started to feel weird. And I said, hey, let's turn around. I want to go back. They said, no, not yet. And then I said, okay. And another half hour goes by. They drive us another half hour out of the city. And this goes on. They keep driving us further out of the city, and it goes on for hours. And the whole time my blood pressure is escalating. And I start asking myself the question, is now the time to act? Is now the time that I fight? Is now the time that we jump out of the car? Is now the time that I push these guys or get rough? And I never want to be that guy. You always want to be the nice guy. I never want to be that guy. So as the time went on, it got worse and worse and more difficult to know what the right thing to do was. And so we had been taken out of town by about 2 hours. They pulled over for gas. We got out of the car, or we were going to get out of the car, and the 3 of them spun around and brandished a knife. And they were waving a knife in my face. And believe it or not, I was still asking myself, while they were still waving a knife, I was still asking myself, is now the time to fight back? I was unsure. Is now the time to fight back? I was unsure. It was a completely confusing moment. Most people don't know when the right moment to take action is. Now, we think that we get training, and a lot of the Second Amendment people and gun owners believe that they can train and know the right moment to pull a gun on somebody. And I call bullshit on this.
because it's very hard to know when to use lethal action. It's very hard to know when to actually pull up your fist and fight your way out of something. I was in a foreign country. I didn't know if I was having a cultural barrier. I didn't know if I was having a language barrier. I didn't know if I was just plain all wrong and not understanding their intent, even while they were brandishing a knife. Grant, that sounds stupid. You should have known better. No, I want to believe the best in people. And I think a lot of humans are like that. A lot of humans want to believe in the best in other people. And so they don't assume that this person is attacking them. They don't assume that they're in a life or death scenario that requires action. So Grant, number one, I had a friend who punched somebody, and that reminded me that I never knew the right moment to take action. My India story, I came out of my kidnapping in India, and through a series of events, which I'll get into later, of how I got out of that. I came out of that and I realized something that I committed to myself, and that was I never want to not know when to take action again. So let me read this by Simon Sinek once again. Simon Sinek says, your idea is so fantastic. Stop talking about it and do it. Genius is in the idea. Impact comes from action. Now, I described two stories when someone was feeling threatened and not knowing when to act. And the third point is getting permission from someone like Simon Sinek on when to take action on an idea. This is what I want to say to you today. In this new world we live in, I desperately think you need to be taking action sooner. If you think that we should be back to work, I want you to write your governor's office and be very specific and tell them to open up your restaurants back for business or open up, lift your stay-at-home orders. If you think we should stay at home, I desperately want you to write your governor as well, because you can know that I am. And I want you to write your governor and let them know that you think we should be staying at home. If you are debating whether or not what to do about your income, and if you just wait another few weeks, maybe then we'll open back up for business and you can go back to your furlough job. I encourage you to drop that mindset and go out and apply for work today, if you haven't already. My friend Derek just got a job from one of my other friends who basically has an online business, and he receives phone calls, and my friend will be answering the phone for him. Talk to people, start new work, swallow your pride. This is the moment that the knife is being brandished at you. And I am giving you permission to take action. I am giving you permission to take massive action for yourself. Now, does it have to be so dramatic? No. If you are unsure that you should be selling a new product for your business and you're hemming and hawing, well, maybe I should wait till the product's perfect. Maybe I should wait till I know how to market it. And then it comes around 2 p.m. You might as well turn shows on it. Put your slippers back on. Forget that. Take action today. Build that new product as soon as I am done with this show. Hang up now even. Don't even finish the show. Click out of here and go build a product. Or call people that are in your target demographic. Grant, I'm unsure what to say. Grant, you always talk about targeted sales and nuanced sales. We could talk about that, but it is far more important that you pick up the phone and call your target audience. It's far more important that you take action on the thing on your heart. Here's why. We don't know what the future holds. I would be massively upset and go for every opportunity to recall my district rep as well as my governor if they do not get us back to work in the next week or so. But that won't matter if I don't act on my business. You might not be sure what to do. We might get back to work and you might not get back to being furloughed. So think about the zero-sum game. You could take if you need work and need income, you could take a new job. And in 2 weeks, we do open it back up for business and your furlough job gets opened up again. Believe it or not, you can go back to that new job, or you go back to that old job, or you experienced a new job and you're massively moved by it and you want to stay. You have created what's known as optionality. When you take action, you create optionality. Unless it's a completely asinine course of action, unless you actually go talk to your old furlough job and say, hey, get out of here, man. I don't want anything to do with you, and burn a bridge. Don't burn a bridge. Call them and say, hey, listen, I need to get work. I hope you understand. I'm going to get work, but I am open to coming back. Create optionality. But whatever you do, take massive action today. if you need permission, if you need someone to tell you, man, I'm not really sure if now is the time to take this massive action. And I'm willing to bet most of you know what action you would take. You might start a business. You might close a business. You might get a new job. You might hold out and work on a project on the house. I am encouraging you, quit procrastinating. No longer in this shutdown do you need to take actions to hold out or wait. Do not wait on anyone anymore. Give a call to that person who you think can support you. Get going and be ready to put your money where your mouth is. A lot of people are not gouging others with pricing, but they are asking for, some form of pricing, because if this is the new reality, commerce has to carry forward even on lockdown. And you might say, Grant, I don't have any income. We're talking about reigniting your income even in the lockdown. That's what we're talking about. Now, if you need targeted help, reach out. Join the Facebook Goals and Gratitude and Success group, and we troubleshoot these things together. We answer these sorts of questions. That's what we do. But regardless of all of that, regardless of the resources you think you have, quit thinking about this as a lockdown and as a temporary situation. I want you to fight for it to be temporary. Personally, that is my opinion. I want you to fight for this to be temporary. But you have to operate as if this is the new working modality. And if you just moved into your hometown, I live in Lakeland, Florida. Maybe you're somewhere else. If you just moved into Lakeland or your town and you didn't know anyone and you had to make new friends and you had to start new relationships and you had to join new networking groups, that's happening with Zoom, with little cameras like this and little microphones like this. New relationships, new networking, new job opportunities, new job interviews, new education. You have it all at your fingertips. You can start something new. There are new physical jobs too. I know Publix is hiring. I knew Amazon is hiring. I knew FedEx is hiring. All these people are hiring. I knew DoorDashers are hiring. So you could get out these doors or you could stay indoors. It doesn't matter. There's plenty of work. There's plenty of income. You need to treat it like it was the recession. There's a lot of discussion. This is going to be the worst recession. Hey, listen, if they're telling you that, they're leading us there. And you don't need to act or share that language, but you do need to protect your bottom line as if it were. I encourage you, now is the time to act. Whatever it is you're thinking, you have my permission. Join the Facebook group. Comment on Facebook, comment on LinkedIn, comment in all those places and tell me, hey, Grant, this is the action I took because I've got to make massive improvements. Now, I'm not encouraging you to take any particular action. I'm just encouraging you to take the action you know is right. So that's Wicked Wednesday. Know that it is time to take action. Develop a compass in your inner brain. And listen, remember, if you need support, visit stateofthespark.com, join the Corona Recovery page, message us and contact us there, or join our Facebook group, Goals and Gratitude and Success, and let us know how we can help you. Remember to embrace the vision and mission today. What is the mission, Grant? Your mission and mine is to ignite lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Take action today and have a great Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by.